So one of the absolute best parts about being a YouTuber and just being able to hang out in this studio every single day building out my projects is that I never have to sit in a boring meeting that should have been an email. I did have one typical office job about 13 years ago when I graduated college, and I swear this idea has been percolating in my brain ever since then. And the idea is super simple on paper. Take an office chair that everyone is used to, take a playground toy like a seesaw, and mash them together. And although the idea on paper is super simple, I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna build it yet, because I definitely don't think 3D printing is gonna be strong enough. I'll turn the lights on and stop being so dramatic, because we gotta do some office chair research. This is not an office chair. We need an office chair. And luckily, when I upgraded my desk chair recently, I held on to the old chairs specifically for this project. You see, office chairs, just where everyone else puts them, behind their trash. Office chair number 1, and office chair number 2. Oops. Sorry, I had to do a quick little science test there to see which one slid better than the other one. And the one with the black base beat out the one with the white base. These wheels are super buttery. But we're still gonna use parts from both of the chairs. Obviously, we need someone sitting in this chair having the meeting. We need someone sitting in this chair having a meeting. Because a seesaw doesn't work unless you have two people.
But now it was time to do a little bit of office chair surgery because I only wanted to work with the parts that I was going to be using in the final product, and that included this center base here and then each of the 2 different seats that would go on each end. And I needed a little bit of visual help because my brain still wasn't quite exactly sure how I was going to put this together, so I wanted to make a quick little part that I could go ahead and 3D print just so I can get at least a nice visual representation of how this thing was going to move and work around this center base here.
And it was just a quick half-hour print just so that I could get an idea of what we're working with. Because one good thing is that one of the axes that I want it to be moving on is already built into this chair structure. Just picture this. This is gonna be the center beam that extends outwards that's gonna have the 2 chairs on each side. And luckily it already spins in a 360-degree motion. So that way the chairs are gonna be able to spin all the way around the base here, but then it's gonna have the traditional motion of a seesaw here in the middle. I think if we design a bracket that goes on the center here that has 2 ball bearings on each side, that way we'll be able to have that up and down motion that we're looking for. And I know that somewhere on this wall of every sort of accessory that I could ever want, I gotta have some bearings here somewhere. Keyboard equipment, linear actuators, LED lights, all the way up top, large, oversized ball bearings. I knew I had them. It looks like I've got a few that I maybe used on something else, but I also have a few that are fresh in the package. So let's open these up, and they should be exactly what I need for this. Yeah, I think this should definitely do the trick of adding the motion that we want on either side. Motion secured.
I had to start thinking a little bit more practically to start designing all of the different components that were going to go into this. And that included making sure all the movement was going correctly and everything was fitting together properly as well. And I had a general idea of how I wanted this to work, so I got into my computer and started working on the different 3D models for this project. Right now I'm just focusing on the center bracket, and that's going to allow us to get the up and down motion of the 2 different chairs from the center pivot point. This is what it came out looking like, and I just quickly printed off all the different parts together.
With these different parts, I also wasn't very concerned at what the print settings were for them, because as I mentioned, I don't think 3D printing is going to be strong enough whatsoever to make this work. I just got to get all the supports out of here. And this first piece of our center bracket should slide onto here nicely. And as we demonstrated earlier, that's gonna spin around this axis here. And then I grabbed those extra bearings that I had that I used from a different project, and I'm gonna save the fresh ones for the other ones. And then those slide into here nicely. We've got 1 bearing, and we've got 2 bearings. And we'll keep it going with 3 bearings and 4 bearings. That gives it some nice weight to it. Now we just have to attach it all with these 2 end brackets, 1 on each side, and we've got motion. It still moves around in that 360 motion, but now we've got the classic seesaw motion. And those bearings make it super, super smooth. I'm really happy with how this is turning out so far.
So the next order of business was figuring out where the seats were gonna sit away from that center base. So I went ahead and I grabbed myself a tape measurer, and I think this part was just gonna be sort of just feeling it out of what was gonna be best for how far apart each person would be for having the meeting. Once I got them in the correct spot, I decided that I thought 10 feet was gonna be a good distance for each chair to be apart. So I hopped into my computer to search the World Wide Web for a good 10 10-foot metal tube. I knew I didn't want to have square because I thought that wouldn't be strong enough, so I found these metal tubes and there were so many options. And similarly, I just sort of had to feel it out, so I went with a 2-inch pipe and got that 10 feet going. It was going to be $100 to get that pipe. I reluctantly pulled out my wallet so that I could get it ordered here to the studio.
And now I've got a 10-foot metal pipe. And thank God I've got tall ceilings up in here. But let's do a test fit in that bracket to see how it looks. Coming on in for a landing. I just realized how dirty this makes my hands. I wonder if I get 5 feet on each side if it will perfectly balance itself. A little bit more forward, a little bit more backwards. Okay, now let me give it a nice little spin. And we're spinning around and around in that 360-degree motion. This looks really good. There's one other thing that I designed, and it's a spot to drill a hole right here in the middle, so hopefully I have 5 feet on this side, 5 feet on this side, and so that way I'll be able to put a hex bolt right down the middle, and then that metal pipe won't be sliding around whatsoever. And the last missing piece was this bracket that I designed that's gonna slide right here on the end. And one more interesting thing that I thought of is that this bracket also has a hole on the top of it, because why not add one more degree of spinning? Just like the center base that allows us to do the 360 motion, we're gonna add another one of those right here on the top. So that way your chair will also be able to spin in a 360-degree motion while the Seesaw is also spinning in a 360-degree motion, hopefully.
And I know I've been talking about how 3D printing wasn't going to be strong enough for this project. Well, I think I finally figured it out while working on another project of making custom PCBs. Because not only do they make PCB boards, but they also do custom CNC work. And so instead of having all of those parts made out of plastic, we could have them custom milled out of metal. And this video isn't sponsored or anything, they just make it super simple to get started. So you upload your file, it quickly processes it, and then you're left with a whole bunch of options of what you want your final product to be. I decided to upgrade the aluminum to be a little bit stronger, and once I got into all the different finishing options that I could add to it so that it just wasn't the raw metal, I decided that I was just gonna go with the classic bead blasting and anodization. There were a whole bunch of different colors that you can get the anodization in, but I thought black would match best. My favorite part is then they automatically give you a final price right there on the page, so it was gonna be $92. Then you can also upgrade the build time to get it a little bit faster, and of course if you do that, it's gonna make it a little bit more expensive. But I was getting a little bit antsy and I wanted these things ASAP, so I got that ordered. Then I just had to go in and get all of those different 3D printed brackets that I designed and get them uploaded into their system, and now it was just waiting time.
And I mean, I had to wait, you guys don't have to wait. They're here, thanks to the power of YouTube editing. But this box is heavy with all those metal parts in there. I think I'm most interested to see what the finish looks like, if it looks like just raw metal, or if it looks super finished. Bubble wrap, bubble wrap. I think this is the centerpiece. We'll get it fully, oh my God, it looks so good. Oh, just look how clean those parts are. That is metal. Oh, that looks so, so good. That black anodization is so clean. We got the other center bracket here, also looking amazingly clean. Oh yeah, that is beautiful. These last parts should be the end brackets. Oh, just the sheer weight to them is just so hefty. I went ahead and grabbed the original 3D printed part that we made, and it is, I mean, it's identical. This one feels like it's less than a pound, and this one feels like it's 6 or 7 pounds. This might be one of my new favorite techniques. I did not anticipate things looking this clean.
We were now into the home stretch of putting this brand new invention together. But before I took off the 3D printed parts and replaced them with our brand new metal parts, I thought I should drill all the different pilot holes that I was gonna use, and I could use the 3D printed parts as a guide so that I knew exactly where I needed to drill them. So I did that on the center, and then I also got the 3D printed parts put on the end of the beam, and I could drill those pilot holes so that they wouldn't go absolutely anywhere. This was a little bit of a struggle, but I went through like 2 or 3 different drill bits, making sure I went all the way through so that when we slid the metal parts on, that bolt would go right through. And now that I knew that those were gonna be doing their thing, it was time to now fully disassemble everything from the office chair Seesaw, so that way I could start assembling everything like I did before, but now with our brand new CNC'd metal parts. I wanted everything to be super solid, so I designed everything with pretty tight tolerances so that it would all fit together perfectly. And that's definitely the perk of having all of the 3D printed parts, that I could first test everything out that way before I moved into the more expensive CNC parts. And even though I already drilled the holes, I wanted to just double check that everything was still 5 feet so that we would be able to equally balance on both sides of the Seesaw. And at this point, I was just pecking away, getting all of the different pieces set up in our brand new office chair Seesaw, and I was just so excited to finally be able to test it out and have a brand new invention here in the studio. I got everything assembled and it was looking really good, and we were finally finished. Or at least that's what I thought. With it fully assembled, there were definitely some things that I liked about it, but there were definitely some things that I did not like about it. And every now and then you just have to make a creative executive decision to chop it where it doesn't work. Let me show you exactly what I wasn't loving. Actually, wait a minute. Let's be positive for a minute. I like the overall construction. Things look good, they feel good, everything feels super sturdy. And not only that, we got all of the movement that we were looking for. We've got the full 360-degree movement. We've got the up and down movement of the Seesaw. We've got the 360 motion of the chairs itself. But this is where things went a little wrong. I think I just got a little bit too greedy on how many different degrees of motion that we had on the Seesaw. The spinning of the chairs is just a little bit awkward, and I think because the back is heavier, it tends to want to sit in that position right there. So I think we need to just get rid of that altogether so that the seat sits nice and perfect right here. And the one issue that leads to is because we're not using this section of the chair, this entire bracket has to be redesigned so that the chair piece right here fits directly into this base down here. I also think if we get rid of that section, it's gonna make it a little bit easier to get into having the seat lower down on the pole itself. Creative executive decision made. And look at that piece, fully upgraded. I definitely think this looks just as good as the original. It's been 3 weeks, I think, since I last tried to put together the office chair Seesaw with the other parts before I had to fully redesign it from the executive decision. But let me go find the original. And I've got it. So the main change that I made to the design is I got rid of that hole that was used for the additional spinning of the chair, and I changed the design to this right here. It's a little bit stumpier, and this section is gonna go directly into the base of the chair itself, and hopefully that's gonna stop it from spinning anymore. At least that is the hope and the plan. Take 2 on trying to put together the office chair Seesaw. Oh God, not again. Oh yeah. God, this is so difficult to move. That was definitely the change that we needed to make on this design. We're spinning around in circles. There's no more movement on the chairs, but I don't think that's too much of a bad thing. I think that this height is so much better for getting into it. It's not as like crazy high, and obviously if someone's on the other side, this feels so much more secure. I mean, as secure as an office chair Seesaw can actually get. But we'll do a quick little tour of the entire thing. So obviously, we've got one chair here. We've got the pole. We've got our beautiful metal bracket up in here. We've got the long pole and another chair. The only thing that we're missing, remember when I said at the beginning of the video?
Because a Seesaw doesn't work unless you have two people.
Well, I'm only one person. I'm not 2 people. Luckily, it is literally 5:01 on a Friday afternoon. So I think I know exactly how to get someone to show up to test this out with me in the studio. Yo, what's going on?
What's up?
Do you want to come to the studio and drink some beers?
Always down. Let's go.
When can you be here?
5 minutes.
Woo! Okay, but first we need to try out the Seesaw.
Do I need my beer?
All right, let me just get it set up real quick. I want to make sure it's not gonna break or anything. You get on that side and I'll get on this side.
All right.
All right, ready?
Yep.
I'm gonna get on 3, 2, 1.
All right, this is pretty balanced.
All right, let's try and spin 360. You're a little bit heavier than me, so try and go up and down.
Whoa! Whoa! Yo, this is actually awesome.
All right, you have like a regular corporate office job. Could you see this in your office?
Yeah, I don't know. It might not fit behind my desk. Although, if you're at a desk pod and you put 2 desks in between it, you could just
Maybe that's
sit
like the,
back and forth. Like this goes under the desk, and you just seesaw.
I feel like I could build like an arm to put your computer here. So like an arm comes up and then there's like a desk right here.
Well, like keyboard cat.
It's kind of nice when I just kind of chill up here.
Whoa!
We're cruising now.
Oh no!
My point of view, cruising. Going up.
Woo!
All right, so how about those TPS reports? Okay, I would have to say that the office chair Seesaw, oh God, it's a success. All of the parts fully work. I think I'm gonna finish up this corporate meeting that we're having, and with that, I will see you at the next unnecessary invention. See ya!